guys, and welcome to today's video. I hope everyone is staying safe from Irma. If you guys hear the noise outside, it's wind and rain. It's getting a little crazy here, but we are filming anyway. So in today's video, I am going to be showing you a dupe for a very popular palette, the Modern Renaissance palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I actually didn't own this palette before this video. I've been wanting it. I've been wanting to add it to my professional collection, so I decided to go pick it up and play around with it. And after I did that, I was on shophush.com and I saw two palettes that just screamed Modern Renaissance to me. So I decided to pick both of the palettes up and do a dupe test for both of them, so that not only am I sharing with you two different dupes for the same palette, but we're also going to be deciding which dupe is the better one. So it's kind of like a dupe face-off between the two that I found. So I'm going to be showing you swatches of the colors and the palettes all next to each other so you can see the differences between the three. And then I can go ahead and tell you that I did this side of my eye makeup with the Modern Renaissance palette, and I did this side with the dupe that I think is better. So I'll also be showing you a little bit of footage of me applying both of the different palettes to my eyelids and creating the exact same eye look. So I'm really excited to share these with you guys because I think the one that is better is an amazing dupe for this palette. I want to go ahead and preface this by saying these are dupes. They're not going to be the same formula, the exact same quality, but the shades are exactly the same, and the quality of the formulas in the dupes are also pretty impressive. So if you've been wanting to have the shades in the Modern Renaissance palette, maybe one of your favorite YouTubers always uses that palette, and you really want to follow along but you just don't have the 40 bucks to spend on it, these palettes will give you that same shade selection with a slightly different formula. So I want to go ahead and preface this by saying these are not the exact same eyeshadows, but they're pretty darn close. So obviously today we're talking about this palette. This is the Modern Renaissance Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. Absolutely stunning palette that looks like this. You've got a lot of warm tone eyeshadows in here, and it also comes with a not bad brush in the palette. One side is fluffy and the other side is more of a flat brush for packing on shadows. The pigmentation of these eyeshadows is amazing. They're buttery, they're creamy, they're all of the things. There is some fallout with this palette as there is with the dupe palettes, but nothing crazy and totally worth it for the pigmentation. So I think this palette, first of all, lives up to all the hype that I've heard about it, but let's go ahead and see how it compares to the two different dupes that I found. So the two dupes that I found were from a website called Hush. It's shophush.com, and they sell really cheap makeup, and I think they have free shipping for orders over $25. One of them is $15 and the other is $10. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the $10 palette. The first dupe is this palette by Bad Habit. It's the palette called Royals, and you can see as soon as you open it, it looks like the exact same palette as the Anastasia Beverly Hills in Modern Renaissance, but the colors are in a slightly different order and they have different names. This one has 14 eyeshadows just like the Modern Renaissance one does. It's $10, but it does not come with a brush. However, I will say the pan sizes are much larger if you look at them one right next to the other. The packaging on this one, I would say I like better than the other dupe that I have. I think it's a little bit more sleek, a little bit more classic. I like that you have so much of each shade and how closely it resembles the Modern Renaissance palette in terms of layout. The other palette that I found is a palette that I already knew that I loved. I have another eyeshadow palette from this brand that was one of the most underrated eyeshadow palettes. I'll link that video down below. And this one is the same palette, obviously, with different shades. So I knew the formula on this one was good, but the shade selection looks just like the Modern Renaissance palette, and that palette is the Beauty Creations Irresistible palette. So I would say this packaging is the most flimsy, is the least aesthetically pleasing. However, if you open up the palette, you can see, again, the shade selection looks pretty much the same as the Modern Renaissance palette, but the thing about this one is they're not even trying to hide that they're trying to dupe that palette because the shade names are the exact same as the Modern Renaissance palette. So it's really easy to find the dupe shades in here because they're named the same thing as the Modern Renaissance palette. So if you were following along to a makeup tutorial using the Anastasia palette, you would literally just use the same shade names here. I thought that was a little bit bold of this company, but the difference here obviously is that the packaging is not as nice, there's no brush, and there are 15 shades in here. So this last one called Party is a shade exclusive to this palette. It does not come in the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette, so you do get that extra shade. And the pan sizes are smaller, more comparable to the Anastasia palette. However, this one is $15, so it's $5 more than the other dupe that I've mentioned. So let's go ahead and get right into the swatches. You'll see in all of the swatches, I swatched the 3 palettes, one right next to the other. In every swatch, the first shade you see on the left is the Anastasia palette, the second one is the Royals palette by Bad Habit, and then the third one is the Beauty Creations Irresistible palette. So you can see each shade, one right next to the other, and see which one you think looks best. I think the standout in both of the dupe palettes is the shimmery shades. They nailed it on the shimmery shades. They look identical to the Modern Renaissance palette, so I would say in terms of shimmer shades, the 2 dupes are complete equals. However, when you get into the matte shades, that's where the Beauty Creations Irresistible palette, the third swatch, really starts to shine. I think the matte shades are definitely better than the Royals palette by Bad Habit. They feel creamier, they feel more buttery. The Royals palette feels a little bit firm, a little bit chalky to the touch in a lot of the matte shades. And as you guys can see, not every shade matches perfectly. Not every shade is as pigmented, but the resemblance is jarring, and you can definitely create the exact same looks. So I would say of the 2 dupes, I was more impressed by the Beauty Creations one because of the matte shades. So this is the palette that I used on this side of my face, and you can see the 2 eyeshadow looks are pretty much the same. And I have to say that as I was swatching, some of the Modern Renaissance shades looked better swatched next to the Beauty Creations palette, but when I was applying this on my eye, there was no difference in terms of blendability and pigmentation when applied to the eye. I used similar brushes but different brushes on both eyes. I had no trouble blending either shade out, and the minor inconsistencies and undertone of the different shades that you can see when they're swatched next to one another are completely unnoticeable when applied to the eye. So I would say when applying these, I felt no difference whatsoever, and I was blown away by how well the Beauty Creations palette stacked up to the Modern Renaissance one. I will say the Beauty Creations one has slightly more fallout, but it's nothing crazy. So you can't really go wrong with either one of these dupes. I think the packaging on the Royals one is a little bit better. I think it looks a little bit more high-end, and you do get the same color selection. You have a mirror, and there is slightly more of each shadow in the pan. So while I don't think some of the matte shades are as good as the other dupe, I still think this is a really, really, really amazing dupe, and it's $5 cheaper. But the definite winner here is the Beauty Creations Irresistible palette. I wish that this dupe was in this packaging because I think this looks so cheapy and it's just not pretty, but it's worth it for what's inside. This palette again is $15, so it is a little bit more expensive, but I think all of the shades in here stack up to the Modern Renaissance palette, whereas there were a couple in here that I feel like didn't really make the cut. So the dupe winner for this cult favorite eyeshadow palette, which by the way is fantastic, is definitely this Beauty Creations Irresistible palette. I think the 2 palettes are beyond similar, and if you've been wanting to play around with this palette forever but you just can't justify the 40 bucks, go with this one. You can create the same looks, you won't be disappointed. It's a fantastic palette. So I really hope that you guys found this video helpful. If you like these type of dupe videos, definitely let me know by giving the video a thumbs up and leaving me a comment down below. I have a lot more dupes that I could share with you guys, and different products that I personally want to test out to see if I can find a dupe for. So if you want to see more videos like this one on my channel, definitely let me know. Don't forget to click that subscribe button if you have not already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.